Well, folks, it's that time again. Thank you for joining me here on another episode of Folks Unfettered. And I am very excited to be with you. I know we're getting this episode out late. There's a very good reason for that, which we'll discuss briefly as we get right into this episode. But I wanted to dive right into asking this question. Have you ever found yourself cornered by a colleague or acquaintance that's always seeking your advice or thoughts on a particular topic that just happens to be in your line of business? Or has someone referred someone to you and they asked for your thoughts on a particular strategy, or they set up a phone call after getting your number just to exchange ideas, and they pose it in the way of asking and seeking for your help? And do you, if you're like me, come away often exhausted and drained? Then you may be a victim of an intellectual leech. And that's what we're going to be exploring on today's episode of Folks Unfettered. We're going to get into it right after this. Well, folks, it's that time again. Thanks for joining me again on this episode. As I mentioned, you have probably read the title and dealing with intellectual leeches. And this is going to be a conversation surrounding dealing with intellectual leeches, or what I like to call emotional vampires in business. But before we get into that, I got some pretty exciting news, and I want to read this to you because I received a message that my parent company, Folks International Group, which is a project management consulting firm, had been featured in an article on one of the most visionary firms in the state of Texas. And so I'm going to read to you their opening. This is Innovation Tech News, and their article reads as such. The title of it is Navigating Success, Unveiling Innovative Project Management Companies in Texas. And this is just for those of you who have not seen my Twitter, my tweet, my Facebook post, my LinkedIn message, because I was so excited about this article. It's one of the reasons why I'm getting this episode out late, is because we've been very busy fielding phone calls, dealing with client issues, and the like. And so it says that project management plays a crucial role in the success of any venture, providing the necessary guidance, coordination, and strategic oversight to ensure projects are executed smoothly. In the dynamic business landscape of Texas, numerous project management companies are driving innovation and delivering exceptional results. In this article, we will explore 15 intriguing project management companies in Texas, each with its unique expertise and offerings. Join us as we delve into their capabilities, industry impact, and how they are empowering businesses to navigate the path to success. And those of you who don't know, that Folks International Group is a service-disabled, veteran-owned business. We are a project management consulting firm, and we offer our areas of expertise in various aspects of project management, because our background and industry knowledge and experience in dealing with public and the private sector affords us a competitive advantage in guiding organizations in successfully executing their projects and achieving their goals. And I'm very proud of Team FIG, as we like to call our firm. They're here in Dallas, and I am grateful to our affiliates and clients that have had faith and belief in us, and that have embraced our solutions. I tend to think very simple in that fact, but some of their challenges within small, mid-sized enterprises and even large organizations, we cover strategic planning from anywhere from preparing your company to do capital raises, to leadership development, to have more effective leadership development programs as it relates to DEI, because as you know, most organizations are having issues with their diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, as far as integrating those and preparing their stakeholders and their internal team members and dealing with a change integration solution. And we offer a unique perspective on doing that. We've done that in the state of Texas. We've done it on the East Coast. We've done it on the West Coast. We're doing it over in Asia. We are doing it in Europe as well. So I am very, very excited about what we are attempting to accomplish and in our values in building organizations one leader at a time. And I will tell you that the Folks Unfettered show is an offshoot of Folks International Group. We saw the need for small, mid-sized enterprises to share their stories, at least the founders of the organizations to share their stories and some of their own personal tales of triumph and overcoming challenges that they have, to bring their dreams and their desires to fruition. And we're very excited because Folks Unfettered has its own story of success. And we have expanded our platform to not just cover business, but we also cover personal issues, social issues, legislative issues, political issues, because all of these different systems, ecosystems, are joined together to either present and provide opportunity or to restrict and constrain diverse groups from participating in what we call the American dream. And so I am just very pleased and excited about a lot of the headway that we're making. I've been working within Folks International Group for the last 15 years since leaving Merrill Lynch. I have had some other pursuits outside of the firm, but this has really been a labor of love for me and the team in the states that we cover. We are really a global firm, and so we're making some changes in our small way. And so I'm grateful to everyone for their faith and belief in us, and we will continue being a firm that builds businesses and organizations with integrity, with ethical principles. We are prudent, we are bold, and we are innovative. And a lot of times I tell my clients, you may not see it yet, but you will see it because we have a way of seeing what others can't. And a lot of times their faith and belief in the firm and in me particularly has led to us being featured in articles and selected for these types of conversations. I will tell you that I did not solicit that organization, as I have not solicited anyone. They have just heard about our reputation. Maybe a client recommended us. If you did, thank you for that. We really appreciate it. We'll keep working as hard for you as we always have. And I think that's important to fly our own banner, if you will. A lot of times I'm so busy doing the work that I don't take the time to pound my chest. And we have some of the best and brightest individuals that are affiliating with us, working within the firm to make it more than I could have ever hoped or dreamt that it could be. And so we're just going to keep going until we can't go anymore. So that being said, let's get right into this topic because I wanted to share something with you. It's always not rainbows and unicorns when you are an entrepreneur and you're building an organization. And a lot of times when you are living your dream, especially if you are a person who starts your own organization and you're considered a small, mid-sized enterprise, you don't really know when to turn that switch off at times. And when you don't turn that off, you'll find yourself dealing with intellectual leeches. If you're like me, my team is very good at protecting me because they know that once I'm engaged, I go right to work. I speak in an outline and in action items. Once you tell me what a solution is, my brain starts working on the steps that we need to take to help you meet your goals and your objectives. And one of the things I want to talk about on the program today is dealing with intellectual leeches. Now, I call them emotional vampires, thieves in a way. People who, there's this thing that I've come across over the last several years, and I just wanted to talk to you guys for a minute, to where everyone has a deal. And what I mean by that is, if you're in mergers and acquisitions, or if you've been in banking, or if you've heard stories of startups, or if you have, seen the guy that's carrying the advertisement suitcase and he pulls out a business plan, right? It's like being out in LA and every actor has a script, right? Well, that happens when you are a small business owner and you're known for putting deals together and getting those deals closed, whether it's $35 million acquisition, whether you've raised $50 million in a capital raise, or $100 million in making connections between a buyer and a seller, or you have worked internally within an organization to streamline their operational processes and procedures that have saved them hundreds of millions of dollars. That reputation goes around, and when you are in a social setting, people begin to pick your brain. And they did this to me when I was at Merrill Lynch. Somebody would ask me my advice on a stock tip who wasn't a client of mine. They happen to be a friend, and they say, "Hey, what do you think about the market's going to do?" Or, "Hey, what stock do you think I should invest in?" And, when you're casually sitting and maybe having lunch or dinner with a friend, or you're over your friend's house, maybe you're like me, you're playing poker, and you're just kind of casually talking to them about the next steps they should take, and you do whatever. I've had instances where they have taken that idea that I have given away, and they've gone on to make money out of it. You say, well, that's what a good friend does. Well, a good friend doesn't really take advantage of you that way, or a new associate doesn't take advantage of you that way. They actually understand your value. And I came up with a phrase after I learned that this was being done to me more than once, that I am not a .org, that I am a .com. And people say, well, why do you make that distinction? Well, because a .org is a charitable organization who has a charitable purpose to where they want to give things away, right? 95% is what they have to give away. A .com is for profit. And so my intellectual value comes in my ability to solve problems and to either dismantle organizations that need to be dismantled and maybe go a different direction, or to streamline processes or organizational objectives to larger multi-billion-dollar organizations that have different business interests that maybe need to be streamlined because there's some overlap there. And so what we tend to do is to reduce their liability exposure while increasing their productivity, which ultimately increases their revenue, while focusing on their most valuable resource, which happens to be their people. In fact, the most important part of any organization, the most valuable resource they have, is their people, are their people. And so whenever I've had some really interesting conversations lately where everyone that wants to engage me, I'll say, well, okay, fine, I'll have someone send you out an engagement agreement to engage the firm. And, here's what my engagement fee is, right? And they'll say, oh, well, no, you don't understand that I actually was hoping that you would just give me your thoughts on this. And if I decide to move forward, then maybe you'll get paid on the back end. And, when I first started out, I was so hungry for deals that I would get compensated on the back end of a deal, and yet somehow I never got. They never made good on their payment to me, right? So there were a lot of firms that ended up owing me a lot of money because they never paid me, and so that leaves some questions there in how to do that. And those are the big sweeping things, right? What I look at are the more subtle ways that people would try to engage you and steal, from you, your the way you think, your intellectual insight, the way your sort of brain works, and I've learned, and I'm learning to be more careful in that space. As a small business owner and as a consultant who specializes in helping businesses look at their overall structure and the way that they could be more efficient. I also help them and their leaders deal with intellectual leeches, those people that will come in and say, "Hey, I want to pick your brain about something." And the minute that someone says to me, I want to partner with you," whenever someone says they want to partner with me, I always think that I'm going to end up on the short end of that partnership. That means that you don't have the resources, nor do you value what I bring to the table, because you somehow think that I'm going to give this away from you to you for free. Now, not to pick on one particular group, but I will be as blunt as saying this, is that in dealing as a small business owner of color, I have war stories in the civilian sector that would make your hair stand up on end, from people that are colleagues of mine that own firms, and even from my employees whose paychecks that I was actually signing. And it doesn't matter if it's in Texas or New York or on the West Coast. There is something uniquely challenging about being a black business owner, and you get it from both angles, right? You get it from non-blacks, particularly whites, but the one that troubles me the most is when I get it from people that look like me, to where somehow they want to play the card of, "Well, come on, brother, you know what this is." Or I've had people say, "Well, we want to do this initiative, but this is about the culture, and so you may not fit into sort of where I come from, right?" And yet I've had conversations with individuals that, "Hey, listen, when you're trying to raise capital as a small business owner, and you're a black small business owner, we venture capitalists and investment angels, or investment groups and angels, don't necessarily give us a large percent of that money." I think we acquire 1.2% of the billions or trillions of dollars that are giving to startup organizations, right? And so I always tell my clients of color that, listen, we have got to really put this thing together, and it becomes somewhat challenging because you can understand the difficulty given the historical, institutional, and systemic issues that have plagued blacks in this country. But I am also a capitalist who is in the business of doing business. And so this idea that somehow I am not going to take compensation or devalue myself because we tend to share the same skin color, that dog's not going to hunt. It's so funny because I think people mistake me. They know my reputation of I guess I have a reputation of being a bulldog. I think I'm pretty direct in how I like to get things done, and there's a way that doing business, I believe, needs to transpire. And so people always like a bulldog until the bulldog doesn't like to be played with. And I've had people bring deals to me because I'm not on the surface a very aggressive person, right? And I've had guys in business say, "Well, this guy's going to come in and he's cash poor, and but we're going to get paid on the back end. You want equity in the company." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, so, but I want to partner with you." And I'm like, "Okay, what do you bring to the table?" And 9 times 10, what they're bringing to the table is me, my firm. And then they'll have these strategy sessions and these calls, right, that will say, well, Gene, what do you think about XYZ? And now I don't get on those calls anymore because I'm just like, no, you're just picking my brain. You're going to take what I say, right? And you're going to go and try to re-say it. And it's amazing to me how those deals never come to fruition because I believe that the motivation, the intent is wrong. Now, some of you that are listening to this might say, or watching this might say, well, come on, Gene, that's a naive movement, a naive move, or you should know better. And that's true. One of my dear friends said to me, a couple of my dear friends said to me, is my issue is that I actually believe in people. And I do. It doesn't mean I like them very much, but I do. And a lot of times you would not have survived for as long as I've survived if you didn't see it coming. It may take one word or one phrase or one conversation to reveal to me exactly what your intent is. Now, I don't always get it right. I've made some poor hiring decisions in the past, and they've cost me dearly because I did not listen to my instinct within a person, or I was really focused on, the job at hand and realized that, sometimes people are only there for what you can do for them. But, today's business world is very competitive. It's more important than ever to protect your intellectual property. On our other podcast, we talked about this as it relates to artificial intelligence and generative artificial intelligence, as it relates to celebrities and businesses, and how larger enterprises are using their likeness and their voices, which is their intellectual property, right? Their likeness and voice, intellectual property. And so, one of the things that we want to be cautious of is, what happens when someone tries to take advantage of your ideas and insights. I'm a very transparent individual. I require that in my firm, and I've always required that, to be right up front. I think that my best selling tool is the truth. I will tell you what my intentions are. Whether you believe me or not is not my problem. But my intentions are what they are. And I believe that we can create an environment where we win, win, win. It's not a zero-sum game with me. It's sometimes we win some and sometimes we lose. Sometimes my competitor will create and disseminate a better product than I will, and that encourages me just to do better. I'm a small firm fighting larger organizations. And so, but I believe that the landscape is wide enough that there's enough for all of us. I do not believe in the theory of scarcity. I think that's somewhat manufactured in our heads so we can sell more products. I do believe in the idea of mastery, and I do believe that we all have a unique way of approaching solutions. And my experience, expertise, and background has allowed me a unique gift in order to do that, teach that, and share that with like-minded individuals. And so I've had several people come and try to either steal my insight, take my ideas, or try to get me to work for free. And here's what's pretty funny. I said this in a recent conference call that I had with an individual, and I said, would you ever pull up to the drive-thru at McDonald's? And if you notice, there are two windows, right? You drive through McDonald's, not to pick on McDonald's, but you drive through McDonald's or fast food place and you order your food. Your first stop is cash or credit. It's the first window. The second window, you get your food. Now, to break it down so simply, and I understand that there are different ways that firms will structure their the way that they are compensated. And so for a small firm like mine, we actually take that same philosophy, is that if you want to engage us, there's an engagement fee, and how you pay the engagement fee is negotiable. And then we actually get the bulk of our compensation by succeeding in what we've signed on to do. And we work with the plan sponsor in order to make sure that we're on target. And so there's a stream of meetings that happen throughout the process. My reputation is not built on taking engagement fees, it's built on my succession fee. How many deals, the tombstones that we actually have on deck. And so, intellectual leeches in business they seem to be running rampant lately. Have you found that to be true too? I've talked to friends of mine in New York, and I've talked to them in Texas, and I've talked to them overseas, and they're like, the climate is very different. And a lot of them will say, well, since COVID. And I'm like, yeah, maybe COVID just sort of peeled back the veil of what we're really like in business, is that we really have not evolved past I need to get what I need to get out of this, and if you get it, good luck. I'll tell you whatever you want to talk about. I'll tell you whatever you want to hear, as long as you give me what I need. And I just got a LinkedIn message from a group in the state out west, just north of Texas, and the guy's been texting me back and forth, and I had a conversation with him about how you should engage someone in business, and why you don't want to deal with individuals that are saying that they'll do things for free. And this client came back to me after 3.5 years because they didn't take my advice the first time, and so they're right back where they started from, which is unfortunate. I wish them much success. But he said, hey, I'm about to do this initiative, and here's the first property that we're going to acquire. What are your thoughts? And one of my weaknesses is that I'm fast. I respond fast. I think quickly, and in my responses, because I always take the stance that it is, whatever a client's concerns are, it is an emergency, and we need to fix that. But I'm not fast and sloppy. I'm efficient and effective, and I've learned to slow myself down so I could take a moment and consider what I'm being asked and the value associated with the ask. And I've come up with a solution that if you want my advice, here's what it costs. If you want to engage, here's what it costs. And if you want me to put together a strategic plan or a bank package or something of that nature, then there's a fee associated with that too. And it is really allowed me to streamline my client list. It has allowed me to disengage with individuals whose intentions are less than honorable. And it has reduced the amount of intellectual leeches that are sucking the lifeblood out of my ability to solve real problems for clients who have real challenges. And, let me give you a brief synopsis of what an intellectual leech is in business. An intellectual leech in business is someone who uses your ideas and insights to benefit themselves without giving you credit or paying you for it. They may do this by asking you questions, copying your work, or simply taking advantage of your expertise. And so I will share with you a story. So real quickly. So a lot of times, some of intellectual leeches will leverage a relationship that they have with you. And this has happened to, relatives of celebrities. This has happened to people who have been on reality shows. I myself was on The Apprentice with Donald Trump, and that sort of highlighted a certain skill set that I have, and him seeking my advice, which really helped my wealth management practice at the time to be able to showcase that globally. No different than what I've always done and continue to do. And a lot of times we when you are really about the business of business, you don't realize that people are leveraging their relationship with you. We call them, um, oh, there's something that a friend of mine called them. They're like name hustlers. Hey, did you know that I'm affiliated with person XYZ? Or name droppers is what we like to say. And here's what my partner is going to do. And when you have a transparent, open format, you don't realize, oh, it takes you a second, at least it takes me a second sometimes, to realize that they're really only value in shopping a deal is bringing you to the table. Now, you could say that's great from a referral standpoint, but it's when the problem becomes is when they are doing it for the benefit of themselves, and then they plan at some point to cut you out of the process. I've had people that have sought to copy my work, because I will send an NDA and then I will send out, sort of my processes, not my secret sauce, but just processes, right? And they'll take that and then they'll try to build upon that. Because one of the gifts that you have when you play at this level is that you tend to be very personable, and people with bad intent can often mistake a shark for a dolphin, right? And let me rephrase that: a shark for a minnow, right? And then once they get called on the carpet, then they realize exactly who they're dealing with. And you know, boy, I'm gonna give you a few tips on how you can spot an intellectual leech in business. They're always asking you questions about your work. They're always trying to get you to do their work for them, or setting it up to where they want to partner with you, do your work with you, but you're doing 100% of the work. Mhm. Right. And then another way to spot them is they'll tell you one thing, and then they'll tell somebody else in your group something very different, because their intentions are different. And I call this really short-sighted hustling, to where you may make a few $1,000s on my back or whatever, but had you engaged me openly and honestly, then we could have closed a multi-million-dollar deal together, which would have changed not only my life, but the life of your family forever. And so sometimes intellectual leeches can't get out of their own way. Sometimes intellectual leeches, that is their profession. That is what they do for a living. They go from person to person to person, deal to deal to deal, shopping these same concepts, saying that the person that they're trying to leech from somehow short-sighted them or cheated them. And so they end up telling the same story over and over again. And that is, I guess that is a career and a job in and of itself. And so I'm gonna give you a few tips on some of the ways that I have dealt and am dealing with intellectual leeches or emotional vampires in business. First, I set boundaries. I get some people that know that I work long hours, and so they will call me at their convenience. They'll call me at midnight. They'll call me at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. And I used to pick up the phone, or I'd send out an email at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't do that anymore. I simply will not pick up the phone past a certain time. In fact, I have my phone set on do not disturb, so it goes off at a certain time, to not only set a boundary for individuals, but also to set boundaries for myself to get work-life balance, right? The other thing that I've done too in setting boundaries is I don't work on Sunday. I'll work 6 days a week, but I take one day to do absolutely nothing. That is a day that I reflect. That is a day that I do praise and worship. That is a day that I will do anything but business. And I learned that technique, or relearned it, from my Jewish brethren, who will shut down sundown on Friday, and then they don't do anything on the Sabbath. And I would make the mistake of calling them on Saturday. He says, they don't even pick up the phone. They'll try to call me on a Sunday. And I made the decision that I was going to do the same thing, that I'm going to shut down sundown on Saturday, And then don't call me on Sunday at all. I mean, unless you're family or we're talking about anything but business, I'm going to set that boundary that is a day of praise and worship. And what I have found is, one, I don't live for the weekend anymore. Two, that I have become exponentially more productive when I do that. And so I set a boundary and help retrain and relearn individuals in how to deal with me. They know not to catch me that day. Nothing's more important than my mental health and my well-being. The second way to deal with an intellectual leech or emotional vampire is to don't be afraid to say no. No is a complete sentence. Will you do blah, blah, blah? No. I've had individuals that I have opened my doors to and brought them on as independent contractors on my firm. And I have been on conference calls with them where they're actually negotiating my engagement fee. I'll say, well, my engagement fee is X, and the person will push back and say, well, we can do it for half of that. And I'm like, so I'll get off the phone because I tend to like to be very professional. And I'll say, okay, so that is not something that you do, is negotiate my money at the end of the day. That's not how this works. Doesn't matter whose contact it is. You don't speak for me in that sense. I wouldn't do that to you, and you don't do that to me. And I've made decisions that when I found people act in an unprofessional manner like that, that I will no longer affiliate with them. That our relationship at that moment is terminated. We will not work with one another. And so my answer is no. You know, the way that you build business, if you're serious and you're not just trying to, there's two ways to use to context for the word hustle. And some hustle is a good word, that you can hustle and work really hard and really work on your business because you're passionate and love about it. And the other side of it has a darker connotation where you're hustling to try to take advantage of someone. And if you are an intellectual leech, you are trying to take advantage of someone. You're only thinking about your bottom line, what you can get out of it, and trying to play someone for a sucker. And, you know, it's very difficult for them when you aren't afraid to say no. I have walked away from multi-million-dollar deals. I can't tell you how many of those deals I walked away from because I determined that I was dealing with intellectual leech, someone who did not have the integrity or internal discipline to be a man or a person of honor, man or woman of honor, right? That they'll work a deal behind my back or try to squeeze it out, and they end up, sort of messing it up, saying on the surface that we're working as a team, but really and truly what they're doing is they're leveraging my intellectual property, my insight, and my firm's expertise and knowledge. And that is akin to stealing. Bottom line, that's what that is. It's akin to stealing. And so that's where I've become really cautious and careful. And one of the ways I do that is I document everything, whether that's through a text message or an email or an agreement. I document everything. And I would recommend and encourage each and every one of you, if you're an SME and you're in the space that I'm in or other spaces, document everything. Document everything. And if the transgression is egregious enough, if necessary, then take legal action. I mean, the bottom line is I have clients that have come to me who, even to this day, I've got several pending lawsuits against organizations who engaged me, and a lot of the information that they provided was either falsified or fraudulent intentionally, or they were just not in alignment with the tenets of our agreement. And so, if necessary, you have to take legal action. I know it can be costly. I know that it can be emotionally draining, and I know it doesn't help your bottom line, but it's necessary to take those steps, because, think about it this way. If you don't take those steps, they're going to do it to somebody else. If you're afraid to walk away because you're emotionally invested in a deal, then you're setting yourself up to be played and taken advantage of. And ultimately, what's going to suffer is your business. That's what's going to happen. And so you have to set boundaries. You can't be afraid to say no. No is a complete sentence. You want to document, you want to document everything. And then if necessary, you want to take legal action. Now, I wasn't going to read this because I had written this before. I've written this before, but I'm going to do it anyway because it was a topic for another podcast episode, but I think that it's appropriate in this one. And it is talking about the importance of having integrity in business. Integrity is defined as the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. In business, integrity is essential for building trust and credibility with customers, employees, and partners. And there are many benefits to having integrity in business. People who have integrity in business, which I know it seems to be such a lost human quality, but I tend to have faith that it still exists. I can't believe that there's just that small of a group. But if you have integrity in business, you will attract and retain customers. You'll get better deals from suppliers. You'll earn the respect of your employees. You'll build a strong brand reputation, and you'll be more successful in the long run. Typically, what happens with people that don't have integrity in business is that you will lose customers. You'll get sued. Your reputation will be tarnished, and ultimately, you'll go out of business. And so, some of the ways that you can build integrity in business, and also one of the ways that you can make a determination between someone that is an emotional leech from someone who is not is, are they honest and transparent in all of their dealings? Do they do what they say they're going to do? Do they put their interest in alignment with your interest and the interests of your customers, employees, and partners first? I would tell you that I had an engagement with a group of individuals in New York, and we had someone that had put us together, and we had all agreed that we were going to compensate this individual a referral fee. And I closed a deal, and one of the partners said, we're not going to pay this individual. And I didn't know that until the person that referred us called me and said, hey, I haven't been compensated by you guys yet. I was like, oh, I wasn't aware. Yeah, you guys have promised me you're going to pay me this. We're going to do a third, right? I said, oh, okay. Let me make a phone call. So I called my other partner in the group, and he said, yeah, we're not paying him. I'm not doing that, blah, blah. And I said, well, but we agreed to do that. And to tell you what my word means to me is that we had a call with another potential investor. I think it was a few $1,000,000. Some of you may criticize me for this. I don't care. But I hope you all will make this decision. And so they say, yeah, well, anyway, so we got this call tomorrow, so I won't be on it. He said, what do you mean you won't be on the call tomorrow, Gene? We got the call set up, and they're, it's up to you to close the deal. It's great. I said, I won't be on it. I said, I can't, in good conscience, get on a phone call and have people to trust me and my group to invest millions of dollars into our endeavor if we are not going to compensate or cheat the person that referred us and put us together in the first place. And so until we make that right, I will not be on that call. Now I'm going to use a poker term. This person was as aggressive as I was. And he said, okay, fine. Thinking I'd probably call back. I didn't. Call happened. I wasn't on it. Deal didn't get closed. I get a call back. The gentleman says, okay, I had a chance to think about it. I think you're right. I said, what do you mean you think I'm right? We do need to take care of this person. I'll transfer the money today. I said, okay. I transferred my money already. They transferred his. I got confirmation. And the other partner transferred their money as well. And then we set the call up, and then the deal was closed. And that was my last time dealing with that group, because I don't want to have to watch my back all the time with people that lack integrity. Now, it's one thing when it's unintentional and maybe you've made a bad decision. It's different because you can fix that. It's nothing. Another thing to be willfully negligent and to not have your word be your bond. And my concern was that if you were going to cheat him, then eventually you were going to try to cheat me. And that's what happened, although I resolved that matter. But that's what's going to happen. And so one of the ways you can build integrity in your business is to stand up for what you believe in, even if it's difficult. Even if it's difficult, stand up for what you believe in. And it doesn't matter how much money's on the table. You got to be able to sleep at night. Walk away from it. If it's no good for you, walk away from it, because eventually at some point you're going to pay the price for that. And then if they are not willing to stand up for what they believe in, when it gets difficult, then you have to ask yourself, what is that person's motivation? And 9 times out of 10, you're probably dealing with an intellectual leech. And then also be accountable for your actions. Are they accountable for their actions, or do they blame everybody else? Or are they disparaging to people that you're doing business with? What is that, right? One of the things that emotional leeches or intellectual leeches, emotional vampires or intellectual leeches actually lack is integrity, which is a key ingredient for success in business. If you follow the tips, if you follow what we've outlined here, then you will save yourself a lot of heartache, a lot of time, and a lot of noise and distraction from fulfilling not only your purpose, but the purpose of your organization. So here's the deal. What can you do? If you're interested in learning more about intellectual leeches in business, visit the Folks International Group website at www.folksig.com. You can also follow us here on Folks Unfettered Speak Freely podcast. You can, this is actually our YouTube channel, but you can actually follow us on the podcast, which streams everywhere. You please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so we can share this information with you as well. You can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're everywhere, by the way. And you can send us an email with your comments and concerns and ideas at wearefolksunfettered@gmail.com. And as always, we want to encourage you to really take an internal look at the people that are around you in business. Are they uplifting you, encouraging you, making you feel exhilarated, or do you walk away feeling exhausted and drained after your interaction with those people? If you are, and I'll say this, a friend of mine who is a CMO, I hadn't talked to him in years, but he posted something on LinkedIn that I'm going to try to quote it. And he said that if people like you and your product, but they won't do business with you, then they don't trust you. And while I believe that's true to a point, I think we have to determine that there are other variables on why they won't do business with you. Because a lot of times people won't do business with you because either they can't afford you, or they won't do business with you because they are looking to get something for nothing. No matter how many times we know that not to be true, people are still going to try it. And so I believe that intellectual leeches are only in it for themselves. They want to take from you and convince you somehow that you should be giving them something for free because their idea is so world shattering and changing, and it, it should be done for free because you're a good person. And I will tell you to never, ever, 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 ever keep emotional leeches on your roster. Get rid of them as soon as possible. If not, they will not only suck the life out of you, but they will suck the life out of your organization. Thank you for listening to this episode of Folks Unfettered. We hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to the podcast and YouTube channel. Leave us a review if you do. And until next time, protect your intellectual property from leeches. And as always, I'm that brother of light, dropping wisdom in your left ear and knowledge in your right. Take care.